First of all, thanks everybody for coming today. My name is Chad Mangan. I'm VP Sales here in Eastern Canada. Today, we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the exciting news with NutriAg and our new company, and then talk a little bit about what this means for you and some of the new products we're going to be bringing to market. So back in October of 2025, there was an announcement made stating that NutriAg had been acquired by a company called HGS BioScience. So for those of you that aren't familiar with HGS BioScience, they are a company that's heavily rooted and invested in developing and bringing innovative biological products to market to basically improve soil and plant health. They've got a strong emphasis on humic acids and fulvic acid products. So you're going to hear a little bit more today from Brett. But these products, when they are applied to the soil, they play a large role in improving overall soil structure and porosity. They can help improve water channeling processes in the soil, improve infiltration, water retention. They do a lot in unlocking soil nutrients that are otherwise tied up in the soil and unavailable to plants. So they help make them more available. They also help applied fertility be more efficient and more available to the actively growing roots as well. And these products are a functional carbon source, which can feed soil microbes, enzymes in the soil, making that rhizosphere or microbiome more bioactive and chemically available. Also, being a carbon source, they can help to make the carbon that's in the soil more stable and prevent it from being lost to the environment. So we're almost 4 months into this acquisition, and those of us at NutriAg, I would say we are finding that HGS, it's very evident that they are strongly aligned with our values, our vision, our commitment to bringing high quality products to market with a good return on investment to the grower. Also, they want to provide long-term positive impacts in the biological and nutritional space, much like we do. So, what does that mean to you, our customers? Basically, it's business as usual for NutriAg. You can expect going forward the same level of agronomic expertise in the field, the same level of quality products, logistical service getting products to you. We are still going to be heavily involved researching and developing and bringing products made in Canada to the Canadian market with the Canadian grower in mind. So none of that is changing. We just now have some exciting new products to offer you for this coming year. So today I've asked Brett Lown to speak. So he is our VP of Technical Sales. Brett lives in Austin, Texas. But Brett has been surrounded in the humic acid business, I guess, his whole life. He's been working in the industry, I think, for about 17 years, Brett, something like that. His family, the Lowns, actually own the Menifee mine with Earth Green Products that HGS BioScience acquired close to a year ago. So Brett, from what I've learned, him, he's extremely knowledgeable in everything to do with humic acids and fulvic acids. So we're very lucky to have Brett as a resource. Today, he's just going to touch on talking about our premium source, this world-class mine that we have in New Mexico, talk a little bit about the manufacturing capacity we have, and a little bit about our patented extracted granulation process, what makes our products unique, and then just touch on a few of the products. So I'm going to turn it over to Brett, but if I could just ask everybody to mute their mics out of respect for Brett. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or we will have time for questions at the end. So you can unmute at the end and feel free to ask Brett or any of us those questions. So with that, Brett, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chad. And man, you're a quick study. I'm becoming less and less relevant. That was a good overview of humics. And yeah, you kind of nailed kind of what we're going to discuss today. I kind of briefly want to go over the history of humics, what humics are, what differentiates them, what differentiates, the sourcing, and then what differentiates HGS with these products, and then kind of give you guys, I'm sure there's varying degrees of experience with humics, so kind of go over the five key benefits and what humics are mainly used for and where you can kind of maximize their value. But when we look at the history of humic acids, it's been we've had many peaks and valleys. I mean, we first started discovering and using these products back in the 50s. Essentially, coal companies were pushing this product out of the way to mine coal. Most of your humic substances are going to be sitting on top of either lignite or subbituminous coal bases. And so people started pushing this product out of the way. They started studying them. Actually, back in the late 80s, early 90s, my dad was trying to buy the product that a coal company was pushing out of the way. And typical federal government said no, they had to put it back into the ground and write a new contract for it. But we were one of the first ones to write a humic contract in the state of New Mexico. But from the 90s on, it's been, like I said, peaks and valleys. We've had successes, and then you had companies come in and sell cheap product and overpromise, underdeliver. And we had that snake oil connotation there for a little bit. But, from the early 2000s on, we've started to see that these products have been kind of universally recognized for the benefits they provide. Humics aren't an all-in be-all, but when used correctly, they're a tremendous supplement and a tremendous value add to a fertility program. Chad kind of touched on this. So my family, we've been in humic acids for 35 years. We saw the benefit of vertical integration and the value of having a one singular consistent source. I'll touch on this in a bit, but when it comes to humic acid, the number one correlating variable when it comes to performance is sourcing. Humic acid's like 100 million-year-old compost, and as you know, with compost is only as good as what it used to be. There's high quality compost and there's low quality compost. Same applies with humic substances. You can get a humic analysis on a variety of sourcing, but very few companies, and I would challenge, I would say one of one has the vertical integration that we had at Earth Green in this New Mexico source. For about 10 years, us and HumiK Growth Solutions or HGS BioScience were friendly competitors, and HGS really kind of built their tipped their cap on manufacturing. They didn't have the direct sourcing that we had, but they invested a lot in taking these substances and putting them into forms that make them easier to use, more efficient. And so last year we decided to stop competing and we joined forces. And what that means to you guys is you guys get the best of both worlds. You get two leading humic companies that provided different benefits, and now those mutual benefits and those synergies provide value to the grower. Also, last year we were able to team up with NutriAg, and I'm sure we can touch on this more later, but there's tremendous synergies between humic substances and nutritionals and biologics, and our goal is to put those combinations and those synergies together to provide more benefit. Give you kind of look at where we cover now. Obviously, our mine is there, that little blue square. We're in the high desert of New Mexico. We've been there for 35 years. We're probably that 10 million tons of humic material is probably close to 20 to 30 million tons now. It's the benefit of being backed by a private equity company instead of your dad. You can lock up more reserves, but we have the largest reserves of humic acid of anybody in the world. When you look at HGS's manufacturing footprint, in addition to NutriAg's manufacturing footprint, we've got North America pretty well covered. What that means to you is we can provide high quality products available to you kind of in your back door. So I mentioned humic substances, and the number one correlating variable to performance is sourcing. And so what makes New Mexico the best source of humic acid in the world? Well, we got to rewind the clock back 100 million years. People ask me how we got that picture. I don't reveal our trade secrets, but when you look at what this was 100 million years ago, this was a freshwater tropical forest, some of the most vibrant plant material and carbon that existed on the planet. Over that 100 million years, all that vibrant plant material got compressed and decomposed and then preserved under two claystone caps. And so what that means is all that vibrant carbon and organic material was preserved. And then because of the volcanic activity in New Mexico, this material was highly oxidized. And what that means is you could go out to our mine and take a sample of this mine material and you can snap it in half. It's extremely brittle, which means it's extremely biologically available. It's very plant available. So it's a fresh water substance, which is extremely important, and more, especially with the degrading soil qualities that we're facing today. It is high in organic matter, low in heavy metals, low in salts, and so it kind of was just the perfect storm for making these humic substances. And when we first started studying these products 35 years ago, we were using it for bioremediation, getting tremendous results with microbial stimulation. And then we started getting into big ag, we got into animal feed, we got into dietary supplement, and everything kept coming back to the uniqueness of this freshwater carbon as one of the leading drivers for the performances that we were seeing. But kind of like I said earlier, people tend to have varying experiences with humic acids. Some have been very positive, some have been very negative, and somewhere in between. And I think one of the biggest misnomers when it comes to humic is, I mean, people can overpromise and underdeliver, and they don't fully understand what these products are doing. And so what we wanted to do was kind of really get down to the nuts and bolts of what does a high quality humic acid really do. The most common use for humic acid is fertilizer efficiency. You know, whether it's in liquid fertigation, dry applications with applied fertilizer, or chelating nutrients in the soil, humics are tremendous for making nutrients more available. Um, Water retention in the soil is also really important. I'll touch more on that in just a second. And like I mentioned, stimulating microbial organisms. That carbon source is a tremendous food source or a catalyst for either applied microbes or indigenous microbes in the soil. Um, and then the last two is plant stress, which obviously abiotic stress is kind of the buzzword for the last 2 years, but humics are tremendous at reducing the amount of stress and energy a plant goes through to, grow a crop. And then buffering of salts and toxins. That's where that unique freshwater carbon really comes into play. When you have a highly negatively charged long chain carbon, it's tremendous for chelating, but also buffering and kind of mitigating that salt stress. So, kind of fertilizer efficiency, like I just mentioned, this what humics are is this long chain, highly negatively charged carbon. And so, with all those active sites on that carbon, these nutrients are able to bind up and become more readily available to a plant. So, people always ask us, are we going to change the CEC or the organic carbon in soils? The answer is no. When you look at the applied pounds per acre versus the volume of acreage, it's a math equation. But what we are doing is in and around each one of those molecules, we are mimicking a high organic matter soil. So with that, when we're introducing the humic acid in those active sites, we're chelating the nutrients that are already bound up in the soil and the nutrients that are applied with these humic substances, which is why it's important to apply them together. We're making those nutrients more available. We've seen anywhere from 20 to 40% increased efficiency with fertilizer, and we've seen bound up nutrients be released through soil testing. Water infiltration and retention. This one kind of gets misunderstood. So we always say humics are not soil specific, they're not crop specific. And so it's kind of the way in which they interact with the soil. So we have a grower up in Ohio. They do a lot of tiling up there for water infiltration because they get a lot of pooling and flooding. This particular grower applied our granular product, a couple 100 pounds to the acre, and he started to see that carbon starting opening up that soil. And that's kind of where you see in that one picture on the right, when those clay particles are bound up together, when that humic is able to infiltrate into that soil, it opens up the soil. Well, you look at a sandy soil, and it's actually doing the exact opposite. When in a sandy soil where water is leaching through quickly, and you incorporate these long chain carbons, it's actually able to hold things in that root zone and create structure. So again, kind of the idea of mimicking a high organic matter soil. When you incorporate those carbons into the soil, it really kind of creates a more favorable environment. So, soil microorganisms, the people have been saying for a long time, carbon is a tremendous food source for microbes. I like the word catalyst because, I mean, that's something we can actually study. We have seen when you take these products and you introduce them into soils, microbial populations start to shoot through the roof. We have a study from the early 90s where after 0 hours of introduction, 24 hours, 48 hours, when you introduce these carbons, these dormant microbe populations go vibrant. We have a grower up in the Pacific Northwest that had a field where they applied Tordon, and the field looked like a leopard from satellite imagery. We variable rated our product in those spots, and over about 12 to 18-month period, we saw those spots start to go away. And what was happening? The carbon in this product was stimulating indigenous microbial populations, and the field was cleaning itself up. It just needed a catalyst. It needed a food source to get those microbes alive. The same thing goes with microbes that you're applying to the field. You'll probably see with a lot of companies that you have to be careful mixing carbon with microbes because you're going to create a reaction, and you want that reaction to happen in the field, not into a tank. And so I'm sure you guys have seen if you've mixed these two products before, we can blow lids off the top of a jug because you're creating that reaction. But it's undeniable the microbial catalyst ability of humics. So salts and toxins. I like this image because it kind of really gives the full picture of what humics are doing. And so we talk about flocculation, opening up soils, creating better soil structure. We talk about the buffering capacity. So when you look at how do we mitigate salts, how do we mitigate salt stress in the soil? Well, when you look at this long chain carbon, it binding up to the salts are actually able to move now because the soils aren't so compacted, and it allows for that leaching to happen. And so from about 2012, we started using these products for salt mitigation. That same grower in the Pacific Northwest, we reduced salts 40 to 60% from fall to spring with a large granular application. But also with these products, and again, because of that New Mexico sourcing, we've actually been using this in water, kind of water remediation with well water. Back in 2014, when California was going through one of their many droughts, they were digging wells so deep that the water they were pulling out was essentially seawater. Well, we started injecting our liquid and water soluble products into that water, and we were seeing a drastic reduction in salt stress because of that buffering capacity of those carbons. And so, we talk about plant stress. Well, salt stress is one of those. But obviously, whether it's cold temperatures, heat, compaction, drought, excess moisture, you can see how mimicking a high CEC, high organic matter soil is creating a more harmonious environment for that plant. So with our granular products, I always say we're treating the soil. Our liquid water soluble products, we're treating the plant. Well, obviously, if we can treat the soil, we're going to create a better environment for the plant. But with the liquid products, obviously, if we can chelate nutrients more effectively, allow that plant to use less energy to take up those nutrients, and then kind of build up the immunity and reduce the stress of that plant, it's going to lead to an overall better, obviously, return on investment, yields, plant health, those things. So that's kind of the overview of humics. I know I kind of glossed over very quickly. We could go down each one of these bullet points in depth. And obviously, I'll make my information available at the end of this, and I can talk about humics as long as you'd like to. But I kind of want to go from here and talk about humics versus fulvics. So there's been a lot of misinformation on the differences between humics and fulvics and why use one or the other. First of all, humics are derived from a humic substance, where fulvics are derived from pretty much any plant material. Fulvics are very easy to extract. If you take hot water and pour it over any kind of plant extract, you're going to get some kind of fulvic. If you guys are drinking coffee and iced tea this morning, you could probably send that to a lab and get a fulvic analysis. Point being is humics are the longer chain molecule. Fulvic is the shorter chain molecule. Fulvics are generally classified as chelators. But long story short, the two work best when they're both present. The reason why people have gravitated to fulvics is because they're not black. when you look at the humic products, um, you d- you leave behind when you go just fulvic the buffering capacity, the cell permeability, the microbial stimulation. The humic and the fulvic work in tandem, and so it's clear to understand why you're using one product or another, and whether the product contains both humic and fulvic or just fulvic. And then the good thing is with a company like HGS, we have a full portfolio of products, and so we can help guide you to the correct product based on the recommendation that you're running. So, an even further dive into humic substances. Like I said, humics are either misunderstood or misrepresented quite frequently. And a key way to kind of help understand how to differentiate products is understanding the components of humic acid. So, if you're looking at a dry or liquid humic product, more than likely you're going to contain humic acid, fulvic acid, and humin. So humin is the insoluble form of humic acid. If you guys have ever used a liquid product and opened up a tank and there's, 4, 6, a foot of sludge, mud, other four-letter words that growers will say, that's human. And so it's the reason why people strongly dislike liquid products. There's nothing toxic or wrong with human. It's just fully broken down and it's not really plant available. It's, we say it might be in, 10 to 15 years, but it's not the reason why, it's not the biologically active forms of humic acid. What you're paying for is the humic and fulvic. Unfortunately, the way we analyze humic is still pretty antiquated. It's the way we did 35 years ago, and it's percentage by weight. Well, what's the heaviest form of humic acid? It's the stuff sitting in the bottom of tanks. So with some of these liquid products you might have used in the past, be careful because on humic analysis, because a lot of that analysis is the reason why you don't like it. It's the human. But this kind of chart kind of gives you an idea of the components of humic acids. All humic acid products will contain fulvics, but not all fulvics will contain humic. And so it's kind of important to differentiate that. But the humic component is going to be the black component. It's going to have varying lifespans on the soil depending on the soil type, but we've kind of studied 6 to 18 months. The fulvic acid, why you generally see it used as a foliar additive, is it's shorter lived. It's quick responding, it's quick chelating, but it doesn't have the longevity in the soil that a humics will. So getting into kind of our product development. Like I said, with my family business, we were focused on the vertical integration, the having the best access to the best sourcing, and then we kind of built our product portfolio based on that. What HGS did was they didn't have a source, a consistent source like we did, and so they looked at the humic market and how these products are applied, and they're like, how can we create products that make application easier and more effective? And so this kind of gives a 30,000-foot overview of our manufacturing process and why we do what we do. So it all starts with the source. And so with the merger last April between Earth Green and HGS, all of our products are being derived from that New Mexico source, which is widely regarded as the premium source of humic of the world. From there, we run it through an extraction process. And what we're doing is we're doing a alkaline extract, which we're pulling off the humic, the fulvic, the carbon off of that raw mined ore. So we create a liquid and then we kind of take it a few extra steps. So if you want just a liquid product that's been cleaned, that's had the insolubles taken out of it, the HumiK LX or a liquid product is a perfect fit. But we looked at what else could we do. And so both Earth Green and HGS got into spray drying. Like I just mentioned, if you look at most generic humics, they're all about 88% water. And so both Kevin Merritt and my dad looked at the humic market and like, why are we shipping and storing water all over the country? And so we got into spray dry technology. The beautiful thing about spray dry technology is obviously we're extracting all the most vibrant and plant active material, but we're leaving behind all that insoluble and sediment And we're also increasing the surface area of those molecules. So when you spray dry this product and you put it back into solution, it's very vibrant and plant active. And that's why these products work at such low use rates, is because we're extracting the most vibrant and biologically active forms of humic acid and fulvic acid, and then putting it into a concentrated form. But if you go one step further, looking at the granular market, there are a couple downsides to raw granular humic. Shipping that volume can be expensive, and then compatibility. Raw humic is extremely moisture retentive, and that is problematic when you mix with fertilizers like urea. So HGS looked at that problem and was like, why don't we create a dissolvable granular that is the hardness, the compatibility with products like urea and then do it in a low use rate. So we're giving the grower exactly what they want and in a very concentrated form. So you look at our portfolio. There is not a company in the world that has as diverse and expansive of a humic portfolio than we do. We have looked at the entire humic market. You take the combined histories of, Earth Green and Humic Growth Solutions, and we have the product to fit your specific need. And I think the main reason why I was so excited about this merger when it happened is the value we can bring to the grower. Now we can recommend the square peg for the square hole, the triangle peg for the triangle hole, the circular peg for the circular hole. Where a lot of other companies are going to try to find a fit for their product in whatever situation you have. With this expansive portfolio, and our portfolio keeps expanding with the acquisitions that we're making, we're able to bring that value add. Now we can use these humic products in combination of the NutriAg products and use the humic as the carrier, find those synergies, find those formulas. We're working with Chris and his team on, what is the next value add product that we can do and bring to the grower. And so in terms of the portfolio, the reason why it's important to you is we can make the right recommendation, and you can feel that you're not getting sold product, you're getting sold a solution. So on the dry side, I'll kind of briefly touch on this. So the Menifee humate, that is the raw mine material. Obviously, that is available. Essentially, what we do is we don't crush our raw material. The reason why that's important to you for all of our products is if you crush the raw mine material, you're just getting more inert material into the finished product. So this product is so oxidized, it doesn't need to be crushed. So the Menifee humate is simply a triple screened granular product. We screen it down to 3 different particle sizes. And we use that triple screening too to get as much dust out as possible. But the product that we're going to focus on the granular side for you today is the HumiK ONE product. HumiK ONE is that dissolvable spray dried granular product. Again, it's taking all of the knowledge, all of the expertise that we have, and putting that technology into a granular applied product. So what is HumiK ONE? HumiK ONE is that the product that's gone through the entire process. We took the raw material, we created a liquid, we spray dried it, and then we pelletized it. And so what that means is we've taken the most concentrated form of those humic fulvic carbon substances and put it into a concentrated form, and then put it into a form that can be easily blended and applied with the fertilizers that you're already using. Like I said, with all of our experience, there are hiccups along the way that we ran into in terms of compatibility, mixing, and application. This product is the solution to that. So as you can see, 2 to 5 pounds per acre doesn't seem like a lot, but because we're only giving you the concentrated form of the humic fulvic and carbonate of those biologically active material, you can get away with a small use rate. Also, it helps in terms of shipping, storage, compatibility. This HumiK ONE, like I said, it's built like a fertilizer. It blends with dry fertilizer. It's a low dust product. And once you put it into the soil, it's going to solubilize and spread out. We have some videos on our website that I can either Chad or myself can send out and kind of show the mobility of this product. But it's pretty neat when you see it, whether it's on a paper towel or, in a kind of a lab environment. It kind of gives you that visual of how even one pellet has, quite expansive reach once it's solubilized in the soil. And then obviously too, with it being a water soluble granule, it's going to be quickly available. We always say this product is built like a fertilizer because, at the end of the day, when you mix it with products like potash, DAP, urea, we want to make sure you get a nice, consistent, even blend. And the best way to ensure that is for it to have, consistent sizing, consistent hardness, moisture, bulk density. Um, as we all know in these fertilizer, if you blend one product that has a different particle size to another, sometimes things can rise to the bottom or to the top. The way this product is built is to hold up, not have any reaction into the back of a spreader truck, and also provide that consistent application. So we did a little bit of research. Obviously, in our greenhouse, that's one of the big benefits with bringing on the NutriAg team is their research capabilities. They wanted just to kind of test not only the HumiK ONE product, but HumiK ONE with the MegaCoat product. And so this was done this year, and the results were pretty astonishing. I mean, this is a short trial on corn, but as you can see, at that 5 pounds per acre, we're already seeing 113% shoot biomass increase and an 86% increase in root biomass. And so a little goes a long way. And so I think when I visited this trial, I was talking to Chris, and 5 pounds an acre is the equivalent of dropping one of the pellets into that little planter. But you can see a little bit goes a long way. And then if you take it a step further and you look at incorporating the HumiK ONE with the Ferticare products and the MegaCoat, this is the synergies we're referring to. This is what we're working with now. Where can we find that value add? Where can we find those synergies that provides value to the grower? And we're always comparing it to grower standard because at the end of the day, this is return on investment. Both my dad and I have finance degrees, and I always approach this from dollars in, dollars out. Because at the end of the day, the grower doesn't care what biostimulant it is, what it's called, what it's doing. You're caring about the value proposition. And so that's what you can trust with HGS is what products we're putting together is all about creating more value to the grower. So on the liquid products, we go a couple different directions. Obviously, we have our standard 12% liquid that most growers and retailers are comfortable with on the market. We also have our technology products, which is our water soluble technology. Like I said, a lot of benefits of not having insolubles, not having to ship and store water, not worrying about winterizing. And we also have a full line of fulvic products as well, from your standard 3 to 6% fulvics to our concentrated fulvics, and then concentrated fulvics with technology blended into them. But when you look at the HumiK LX, what it is it's going to be the premium version of your 12% humic. And so it is derived from that New Mexico source. You're going to get that freshwater carbon with those organic acids. But you're also going to get it's been extracted of that insoluble. Like I said, we are very aware of the challenges in the humic market, and we have the team to overcome those challenges. And the human and the insoluble material is by far the biggest hurdle that we've faced. And the HumiK LX is an extremely clean product. And so, whether it looks and you mix it in with your 32, your 1034, it's extremely compatible and it blends effectively well. But again, what it's doing is increasing the efficiency of that fertility blend. And so whether it's stimulating microbial activity in the soil, helping with salts and chelating those nutrients, or simply making that fertility blend more efficient, the HumiK LX is kind of the value add. So again, I know I kind of covered a lot here, and each one of these slides we could talk, 30, 45 minutes on, but I wanted to give an overview and don't want to take up too much of your time. But I think I can kind of open it up for questions. Chad, if you want to kind of help facilitate that.
Yeah, I'll start with a question, Brett. Thank you for that. We've had a lot of discussions with growers and ag retail people here over the last month about the products, done the demonstrations, excuse me, showing the solubility when you put one of the prills in water, watching it
Hmm.
dissolve within 5 or 10 minutes, putting it on the paper
Paper
towel to
towel.
watch how it moves. So you and the team have told us, the best place to apply it is obviously in soil, like in a 2x2 band or in a
Mhm.
strip under, like if they're strip tilling underneath the seed or
Yep.
broadcast incorporating it. Like ideally, we don't want that on the soil surface. We want it down in the rhizosphere so it can
Mhm.
work down there, correct?
Yeah, so obviously, like I said earlier, we want to meet the grower where they are. And so the main goal is to have it be applied the way that they're applying their fertility. The closer you can get it to the seed and the closer you can get it to where that, crop is growing, the more bang for the buck that you're going to get. And so obviously when you're looking at 2 to 5 pounds an acre, we want to concentrate as much of that product in and around where that seed is as possible.
And then they've kind of told us that it'll move sort of laterally about a
Mhm.
like one prill will move about a foot in diameter,
Correct. Yep.
and then maybe 6 inches down and sort of stay there,
Correct.
acting like a glue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so essentially, I mean, once it hits the field, it's going to start to solubilize. And essentially, we're bringing a liquid product in dry form. But once it hits the field and it hits that soil moisture, you're going to start to see that solubility, and then it will expand, like you said. It'll a foot out, 6 inches down, and that's where you're going to start to get that spread. And then because it's a humic product, you're going to have that, 4 to 6 month lifespan. And we talked about kind of mimicking more high organic matter soil when you got that all that organic carbon and those organic acids that have spread out into that soil, well, that soil matrix is mimicking a higher organic matter soil now. So like, are we changing the overall composition of the soil temporarily? Yes. Over time, slowly. But it's not a quick fix. I always say most of these soil degradations happened over decades. We're not going to fix the problem overnight. And with these humic products, our first goal is to stop the degradation of soils, and then the second is to start to rebuild, and that happens over time. But all of our application rates are one, they're built on return on investment in year one, but two, it's this is an annual product. I know there are humic companies out there that say you can throw a couple 100 pounds out and call it a day. That's not our experience. This is something that you have to slowly rebuild over time. And so we want to make sure it's ROI positive in that first year, but also that the rate is, building towards the future, if that makes sense.
There's a question in the chat, Brett. I know a lot of our discussions have been on maybe starting with more problematic soils or coarse sands or heavy clays to improve flocculation, things like that. But the question is more on land that's been heavily manured. Would you
Mhm.
expect to see any results or in your experience with growers that are applying lots of manure?
Absolutely. Dairies are one of my favorite growers because we can help in a multifaceted way. So manure specifically, that's when you get to see the full capabilities of humics. That freshwater carbon is going to help tie up a lot of the salts that come with the manure. The microbial stimulation benefits of humics going to help break down that manure, and you're going to and also the chelating of those nutrients. So when it comes to manure, you're going to help tie up the problematic parts of it and then maximize the efficiency. Because obviously the greatest things about manure is you get the volume, it's inexpensive, and it's pretty readily available. When you incorporate humics with that, you're definitely maximizing the benefit for it. So absolutely. I mean, every manure ground um, gets a heavy humic recommendation.
Yeah, there is a lot of salts involved with manure. I hadn't actually thought about that. The buffering capacity with the salts that are in the manure. I mean, I always think about the nutrients that get tied
Right.
up, liberating them, but
Mhm.
that's a good point. Another question on research with humic one and cranberry.
I'd have to check with our agronomist, Jeremy, on that.
Anybody want to unmute and ask a question? Feel free.
So I see Ariana just asked about soil pH. It's the same thing. I have a few growers that claim we've changed the pH of their soils. I am not as aggressive with those claims. I'm much bigger believer in under promising, over delivering. So again, in and around where that humic molecule is going to be, we are going to affect the pH, but changing the pH of the soil as a whole, I just don't think it's possible. You look at the total volume applied to the total volume of soil. I think that would be an irresponsible claim. But again, when I talk about mimicking that better soil and those where those active sites on that carbon, we are having effect in and around that area.
Okay.
Hey, Brett, Joe Yannaker from NutriAg speaking. A couple of questions. First of all,
Yep.
I'm looking at my apple and grape guys, and we're thinking, gee, it would be nice to put a HumiK LX in the spray tank with our herbicides, Roundup or something like Ignite. However, both Roundup and Ignite, when they hit the soil, they are neutralized. And
Mhm.
we were thinking that perhaps putting the HumiK LX in there would actually reduce the effectiveness of Roundup and Ignite. So that was one question. The second thing, we were talking about fulvic acid. Does fulvic acid also chelate nutrients? And
Mhm.
like with NutriAg, our nutrients are very small, so they get in through the polar pores. I'm wondering if you're chelating with humic acid, or sorry, with fulvic acid, will those molecules be bigger and not be able to go through the polar pores?
So great questions. I've seen some humic companies that recommend application with herbicide. Chad and I were actually having this conversation last week, I believe. Um, I never recommend humics with herbicide. The reason being, depending on the type of herbicide, the carbon can tie up the herbicide, and that's the last effect that you want. The best product for herbicide for effectiveness is fulvic because fulvic doesn't have that carbon component, and fulvic can increase the efficiency and effectiveness of herbicide. So when it comes to those type of applications, we always recommend fulvic. So you asked about fulvic's ability to chelate. Like I said, fulvics are tremendous chelators. They're just shorter lived, and so it's more of that quick response, which is why you see them use a lot as foliars or with, kind of micronutrient sprays. We've been mixing a lot of our products with NutriAg's products in California, and getting kind of that increased efficiency, increased, um, yeah, efficiency, chelating abilities. So fulvics are tremendous in that capacity.
Hey Brett, there's a question. I've had a few discussions about this as well, and there's literature online to suggest that there's a benefit, but putting the humic LX in with 28% or 32% UAN to help reduce nitrogen losses. I know
Oh, it's the
you get
number
into
one
that
application we
discussion
do.
a
Yeah.
lot.
So yeah, in the States, we use a lot of 32, but 32, 29, 28, any UAN. It's by far like when we first started using the liquid products in California, our tank was sitting next to that UAN tank. And it was a 10 to 1 mix is generally what they would use in California. But exactly that is increase the efficiency of that nitrogen. The first year they would use the same amount of nitrogen they used the year prior and saw more effectiveness. And then actually, year over year, we could start to reduce the amount of nitrogen that they were using because we were increasing the efficiency.
Yeah.
In
Here's a
addition to in addition to all the other, soil benefits you get with the humics, but yeah, mixing it with the nitrogen for efficiency is probably the most common application we have.
And the humic LX does mix with UAN. We've done all the testing too in our lab. There's a
Yeah.
question here. You mentioned your dry product can be mixed with urea. Can this be mixed with a full dry blend of NPK, sulfur with copper or boron for banded drill blends through an air drill? And then with a high humidity situation like overnight rain during seeding, would the product still hold up? I'm always concerned about handling with humics.
Yeah, and so obviously the product is built. I mean, the blend is not a problem. Obviously, when you talk about overnight rain, high humidity, obviously this is a water soluble granule. So if it is exposed to actual moisture, it's going to start to solubilize. And so it is kind of a case by case situation there. But like as long as it doesn't get wet, but what we test in our Sardis facility is under the highest humidity of situations. Like we're creating, 80, 90% humidity, and seeing how long these products will hold up because we want to know what the product's going to do before you do. So that's where get with your local rep, help us understand the situation in more detail, and we can kind of help guide you in the best way to go.
There's a question on corn trials to yield. I mean, I know we have lots of data in our arsenal, but more on putting it in with if they've done any trials in the U.S., putting it in with a strip till situation. and then taking a teal. Do you know if any of the trials that Jeremy and the team did were mimicking a strip
I
or?
I know we've done strip and drill and we've done tilling, and so I don't know specifically with the HumiK ONE how it was applied, but we can get you that data. The all the
Yeah.
corn data we have.
Will you see a seasonal change of moisture penetration or percolation in first season when you apply HumiK ONE?
Yeah, I mean that's something that we test constantly is using moisture probes and opening up and flocking that soil. So yes, you should expect to see change. It's not going to happen overnight, but over the season long, yes.
There was a comment from Lewis or Louise. We use fulvic since for 4 years with glyphosate with success. Yeah, I've always been told it's an absorption aid and has a
Mhm.
great chelator. But we actually are using fulvic in our Manzanfos DX and Fertiboost DX. Like we've at NutriAg, we've done a lot of the work to make to show that these added supplements are improving the nutrition products, right? So it lines up greatly with the HGS product line.
That's the tricky thing about fulvic acids, because when it's used correctly, it's extremely efficient. It's just the problem with fulvic acid is, we always joke that the word humic acid is pretty broad. Well, fulvic acid is 10 times more broad. And so there's ranging qualities on the market. And so that's why you should have to be very careful who you work with and where you get it from, because I mean, I know people that get fulvic acid as a byproduct in their manufacturing process and they have an analysis on it and they sell it. They don't really know what it's going to do, but they got their analysis, and so that's why it's important to work with a company that you've had successes with before, that have been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years, because all of our products are tried, tested year in, year out. I always get the question, do you guys keep doing research? And the answer is yes. We're not testing to see if these products work. We're seeing how we can be more effective. Is there a better rate? Is there a better timing? When you look at humics and fulvics, there's not a toxicity to these products, but there is diminishing returns. And so again, you go back to that, financial component. We're trying to find the point on the curve of where do diminishing returns start. And then now with the NutriAg acquisition and our acquisition of a company called Farm Grade, what are the synergies? What are the combo products that have that 1 + 1 = 3 kind of reaction? And so that's what we're constantly looking for. And again, it goes back to how much value can we bring to the table to the grower?
Hey, Brett, somebody asked me, I don't know how easy it is. I know you've got all your HGS has great YouTube videos. So anybody on the call, just go onto YouTube and Google the HGS videos. But do you have the one that shows the granule, like the solubility in water? Would you have that video accessible that you could just throw up just for those that are still on the call? I don't know how easy that is to access. If not,
Uh, yeah, I would have to go to our SharePoint. I just don't know how.
that's fine. Okay. I just
Yeah,
didn't know if you had it. Like,
I can send it. I just as I explore a website, I don't know how much uh,
yeah, I hear you.
information voluntary sharing.
Yeah, it is a really nice visual to see, but the video does a great job just showing the solubility of it and how quickly
If
it's.
there's a email list of the attendees, I can send that out afterwards, just so people can. And then I can send the other. I think there's like 6 or 7 videos that show, like you said, the 1 foot expansion, the 6 inch drop, the solubility. That way they can explore those videos.
Okay. Well, are there any other questions or comments or? If not, we will have a copy of this recording too that we are going to once we get it, we'll email it out to the RSVP list and anybody else that wants it. Just contact your local NutriAg rep or trial information, product information. Feel free to reach out. I've had lots of text here with questions. So, but yeah, I guess we'll just leave it with that. Brett, really appreciate your time. I know you've got a busy schedule too, and I know you've got to jump here. So appreciate you educating us on that, and really looking forward to putting these products to use in Eastern Canada and seeing where we can improve all this soil productivity and soil health and make better crops. So thanks again.
Well, yeah, thanks for inviting me, and thank you all for your time. And like I said, I'll send my contact information in that same email. And so don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Like I said, I've lived and breathed these products for most of my life, so I'm happy to chat about them more extensively if you'd like.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thanks,
Brett.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.